Welcome to the Leading Together podcast. I'm Shaun Lee, joined as always by my partner and co-host, Joe Oleg. Joe, how's it going today?
It's been a week, Shaun. You know it's been a week. It's been a good one. A good one. It's been full. I've been saying all week long, life is full right now. But in a good way. Yeah. A lot going on with the kids, the family, work, extracurriculars, all the things. But life is good.
So full. I love saying it that way because it's full. I like that as a more, I don't know, something feels more optimistic and good than busy.
Yeah.
Right. To say it's full. It's full of hard stuff. It's full of good stuff. It's
little positive framing there. Yeah. How's your week going?
Yeah. My week's good. Yeah. It's had it's a like homecoming week here for our kids. Um so it's also been a full week of lots of activities, but lots of fun stuff as they've been quite involved in all the homecoming things. So got the big homecoming game tonight and the big dance Saturday. And as I've told you before, I was not a high school kid that did that stuff. I was too cool and too punk, or maybe not cool enough. I don't know. So,
one or the other. Yeah.
I thought I was too cool, but in reality, I was not cool enough. So,
that's fun. That's fun. Nice.
Well, cool. Let's dive in today to our episode. We're excited for this one. It's something that we help our teams work through all the time, that we work with through all the time, and I think we're spending sort of endless amount of time thinking about. And it's really just about our collaborative teamwork and how the reality is that most of our energy goes into things like planning meetings, offsites, Zoom calls, anything that's related to our synchronous time, our time together working on collaborative activities together. But the reality is the bulk of our collaboration usually doesn't happen in those spaces. Like, we're usually working independently. We're collaborating on things. It happens asynchronously, right? In Slack threads, shared documents, project trackers, even email. That's probably not that effective. And too often, that's the part we design the least, right? We're spending the most time there probably, but we're bringing the least intention to it, right? And so when we don't do that, we have a real lack of clarity that devolves into scattered updates, missed handoffs, lots of interruptions, right? But the reality is if we can bring good intention to these agreements, our async ways of collaborating have the power to significantly improve our team performance. So today, we're going to jump into 4 asynchronous hacks that can level up your collaboration. Joe, what's our first one?
Yeah. So the first one is breaking a habit related to the endless meeting update. Right.
Ooh,
so
love this one.
We've literally all been there before. If you're listening and you're saying, no, I don't know what you're talking about, then I don't know what you're talking about. That's my
no
response.
way. No,
Okay, so
meetings by yourself if that's the case.
Yeah, right. You are a solopreneur and have no teammates. Okay, so here's the bad habit. It's the team meeting where everyone shares updates about what they're working on, sort of one by one. And there's oftentimes little sort of structure around it. There's no real facilitation around it. Typically, the vibe is the more I share, the more I sort of showcase how the work that I've been doing, right? And the meeting just winds up spending like 60 minutes on, or longer, right, on just updates, right? And so we all know that that's not effective, right? If we're really being honest with ourselves. So what's the upgrade? Here it is. Here's the async upgrade. Share updates in a collaborative workspace, whether it's a project management board or something as simple as a doc, right? Ahead of the meeting for everyone to preview ahead of time, reference in real time, and call back on after the meeting. So do that asynchronously before the meeting. Replace all of that time and update with that. And what I'll say is if you have a longer update, part of this hack involves appreciating that some updates are big and have far more context. And if you have something like that, use a recording tool like a Loom, a Zoom to share that update via recording and share that ahead of time for people to review at their own pace. This, by the way, does not mean that you cannot get in and discuss things at the meeting based on what is a priority, right? But so we're
Yeah.
replacing this hour plus time of updates with a simple async update in a tool beforehand. And for longer ones, using something like Loom to share the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, I love this. I love this one because it's so common. We see it so often. For many of us, it's just the way that we have been trained to run team meetings. Like we don't know anything different a lot of the time. We think that when we come together once a week, what we're just supposed to do is share big updates of the things that we're working on. And there's so many potential problems with that. I mean, one is I remember one time I observed, sometimes we will go in and observe meetings with our clients early on before we even start doing any training. And one time I was doing this with a client just to get a feel for their culture, and the whole meeting was just this. Like they had a 12-person leadership team, and all this was a go around the horn and everybody give an update. Well, guess what happened? They got to the seventh person and they ran out of time.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So the other five could have had the most important stuff that was the most pertinent and relevant for everybody else in the room, but we'll never know because they didn't get to share anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so not only that, but like just to double down on the point you're making here is that you want to save your synchronous time is rare when you think about what you can do in a week together to get your whole leadership team together in a room, and you want to save that for dialogue and debate on the most important issues. And if you're spending all this time doing these updates, you're much more unlikely to do that. But if you do this if you share these key updates in an asynchronous way, it can even prime those better conversations, right? You now know, like, I'm informed, I know what's going on. That's actually triggering me to say, oh, I think there's this thing that we need to have a dialogue about as a team. And now
That's
you're
right.
much more ready to offer that to your team.
That's right. That's one of my favorite parts about it, right? Is it sort of primes that discernment around what are the most important things for us to talk about. As an individual, when you do your part of that, you share the update, you're processing what, if anything, is a big topic that I need to try to get our team to prioritize and talk about. Maybe I don't have anything. And so then you go into the meeting knowing you don't have anything, but you've shared your updates. But as a group, right, you're able to see those things ahead of time, and you can start to discern what are the most important things out of this
Mm.
that we need to discuss.
Yep.
And it's I think it's a mindset to overcome in many ways. We think that these big contextual updates are important because they do have this positive way of meeting a need of clarity, right? A sense of alignment that we're going toward. They can meet that need for us, and
Hmm.
that's important. There's another way to meet it though, and it's to leverage async, right?
Hmm.
And doing this allows us to meet a really important, business practice, organizational practice, which is what you said, getting to the most
Hmm.
important stuff during
Hmm.
that precious time together.
Yeah, that's great. Well, should we move on to our second one?
Let's do it.
Okay, we call this one the data scorecard review. And the bad habit here is that teams spend live time reviewing dashboards or complex scorecards, leading to random reactions, awkward silence, uninformed questions, and lengthy but low value discussions that end up focusing on the wrong thing. Right. So that's what a lot of teams do when it comes time to look at bad data, or look at data, I should say.
Yeah.
The async upgrade here is that the point person for the data set, report, dashboard, whatever it might be, who's responsible for making sure that it's all there and up to date in the right place, records a Loom voiceover, some type of video voiceover, walking the participants through an overview of what they're looking at, gives some context, maybe shows some trends, right? Maybe offers some key insights, offers some implications for what it means, right? And the team members are expected to review it, to comment asynchronously, right? And then also, again, like you're going to hear a similar trend here, be primed for what might they need to dive into as a team. Like now they're ready. They see like, ooh, this is an important insight. This could have an impact
Mm,
on a big strategic goal we have, or a missing result, or maybe it's something we just really need to celebrate. We're
yeah.
much more ready to do that when we've gone through this ahead of time. Now we can come synchronously and we can talk about the right stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this one so much. The the crickets that you hear so often when somebody just puts that data, in front of the team, and it's like, and then the feeling is, oh, nobody cares about data, or we don't have data analysis, in our
Yeah.
capability set as a team.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about this one is that it's progress to just send the data scorecard out ahead of time. Like, just
Mm,
to share that without the Loom video is a good step in the
that's
right
true.
direction.
Yeah.
But the Loom video or the recording is really powerful because it forces the person who's responsible for being the steward of that scorecard, right, to bring some initial thinking and analysis and framing right to
Yeah.
them. And that piques everyone's curiosity a little bit, makes us want to look at it a little bit more ahead of
Hmm.
time. And it helps to prime that, right? It gives us a chance to get into the headspace of looking at the data ahead of time, right? And so that ultimately, when we get into the meeting, we're that much more focused on what do we actually need to discuss, if anything, right? Sometimes that's the
Yeah.
great part of this about this as well, is that
Yeah.
sometimes that update is all you needed. Everyone's watched and internalized, and so now we get in there. Thanks for sending. Nothing big to talk about. What are the big things that we need to dive into today? Love
Totally.
this one.
Yeah, and maybe just a couple things to add here, Joe, would be that I think that there's an appreciation for the fact that everyone on your team likely has a ton of things going on, and even if they're trying to be as present as possible and focused as possible, it's still asking a lot in real time for someone to get their head around any set of data and really bring an analysis and understanding lens. That just feels like a Herculean task for me to switch from one thing to another thing. I'm like, now I'm going deep and looking at data. You're kind of just setting yourselves up to fail if you're doing that, because people need to have. So if you do it asynchronously, I can say, well, when am I in the right time to do that?
Yeah,
Like I think I've got this little gap at 3 o'clock today where I'm going to be in the right space to
yeah,
look at that and really soak it in and have some questions. But I know this morning I've got too much going on, right? And
yeah.
so whatever it might, so it really just helps us all to show up much better.
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe just to call out a few core ideas that we're pulling on here that we'll continue to with the other ones is, one, we're optimizing for processing time, right? And the different
Mm,
processing needs and styles that people have with
yeah,
both of our initial hacks.
yeah,
We're optimizing for better input from people, right?
yeah.
So in this case, it's going to be better reactions to data. Uh, and in the earlier one, it's going to be a stronger update because there's actual some deliberate prep that you need to do to share that update. So we're
Mm,
we're we're optimizing for better input. And then the third is we're optimizing for our synchronous time together,
yeah,
right? So when we
that's
actually
right.
come together, how do we make sure that that time is most impactful? Right? And
Yeah,
and so
that's
let's keep
great.
going, but
Yeah.
that's a couple themes for us.
All right. What's our
Um,
third one, Joe?
all right, our third one, deep collaborative work. So it's a play on deep work. We talk a lot about deep work, how we don't have enough deep work in our organizations these days. We're distracted. This is the idea of deep collaborative work, right? And how to optimize for that. So the bad habit is we all come to a meeting for the purpose of brainstorming, feedback, problem solving. Got a big problem to solve. There's some sort of deep piece of collaborative work that we need to do, and we show up, and whoever is sort of the point on the issue, the topic, uh, just jumps in, shares some framing, and we see lower engagement than we'd hope. We see, heck, at times, like little to no engagement. Um, we see a lot of just questions and seeking to understand, and so then ultimately sort of the habit here is we spend most of the meeting explaining the thing that we want to do some deep collaborative work on,
Mm-hmm.
and the other, and people trying to understand what it is through
Yeah.
question, right? And we
Yep.
don't actually ever get to the problem solving or the feedback or or by the time that we do, time is almost up, right? And it's like, oh, we needed more time for this. Well, no, we didn't. We needed a better async, mechanism. So what's the
Yes.
async? The async upgrade. It's going to sound a little bit familiar. It's a pre planned recorded video, something like, again, a Loom, a Zoom, to the team to onboard the group to the topic. What
Yeah.
is it that we're talking about? Why are we talking about it? What's our objective for the time when we come together? Um,
Hmm.
and it could even include the opportunity to share input ahead of time, right? So sometimes if these things are such that they're going to need a lot of feedback and input, you might even include an asynchronous form, right? For someone to share ahead of time so that you can even bring those input points and bring them to the meeting. Now all of a sudden, think about the difference between the two meetings, right? One is people are coming and they've already fully processed what's going on. They've probably asked a question if they do need clarity. They've maybe even shared input, and so we're already
Hmm.
to what in the other meeting would maybe take 30 to 45 minutes. We're starting there,
Yeah.
right? So that's the async upgrade. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it reminds me of, sometimes a lot of time can be spent in a meeting where a leader might be really passionate about an issue they want to dive into it, and maybe their way of helping to bring the rest of the team along would be to prepare a presentation or a bunch of slides, and whether they're just trying to help them understand and be informed, or whether they're like trying to sell them on the thing, like whatever, it can be
Yeah,
either intent, right? But what one, it just takes a lot of time in the meeting, right? So
yeah,
and then two, it's still, depending on like what you've shared before, the way in which we process information can engage with it, it still can be even difficult, like after, let's say, a 15 to 20 minute like onboarding to the issue, for someone to
yeah,
even engage well. And so that just gives people the opportunity to come so much more ready to jump into a meaningful, deep issue. And I love the play on words here, like deep collaborative work, because I think it just is naming that uh, we know what, when we think of deep work, we think about solo time. And I think many of us, at least those of us who think about ways of working and strengthening our teams and even just strengthening our own production, like, and how we just become a more productive contributing team member, that we know, like, we have to hold time to do deep work. But we think about that as, it's like, it's my solo work. For me, it's like, I think about that with a lot of writing I do every week.
yeah,
But I don't think it's as intuitive to think about, well, that's also true for the
yeah,
way that I collaborate with my team. And
yeah,
so nothing else, it's like, just, we have to acknowledge that we have to do that. Like,
yeah,
like, it's required for us to come together and do meaningful work with each other. So how do we design for it?
yeah. This the reality is the constraint that is time is something that as leaders we're very aware of,
Yeah.
but we're not all that creative with what we do to respond to that constraint. And
Yeah.
the reality is, if we had all the time in the world to collaborate and have these deep dive discussions on feedback and input, this is maybe unnecessary. That's probably a stretch. Processing time really helpful to still have maybe a few days to marinate on
Yeah.
those kinds of, but we would be much more productive if we just had all the time in the world. But the reality is we just don't,
Yeah.
right? And so if we want to optimize for that limited time that we have together with our team, we need to get creative with how to make the most of that time.
Yep.
So,
That's great, Joe.
all right, last one.
Yeah, last one. The fourth one we call the decision by meeting habit. And what this means
Mm,
is, uh, basically, in meetings, lengthy discussions happen, but the decision doesn't quite get there. The final decision is not clear, it stalls out, and the team is left with this feeling of, well, we can't actually land the plane or make the final decision here until we can get in the room with each other again. Right?
yeah,
We're our giant. You just mentioned time. Our giant constraint is, we can only finalize this when we are all back together. Delays progress, creates bottlenecks, ultimately being so contingent around everybody's availability to get together again.
yeah,
Right. So the async upgrade here is to use something like a decision log and a work management tool like Notion or Coda or Asana, or even just a shared document that you can have a log of decisions around. And the decision owner can post proposals asynchronously, invite people in to review and to make comments, and then give them like a decision like deadline, right? Like, if weigh
yeah,
in by this time, because we'll be making a decision here. And then, of course, like everything else we've been suggesting, everyone on the team is discerning where might any of that tip into then needing to be synchronous,
Hmm.
right? Because maybe something does become contentious or have some tension, or just there's not a lack of clarity. It would benefit. But a lot of it, I think we'll find will either not have to go that way, or you can make significant progress by using a decision log tool.
Yeah, I love this one. The impact it has on a team's sort of pace of progress is what comes up for me with this one the most. You know, if you
Mm,
think about those two teams, one who is really leveraging asynchronous tools to make decisions transparently, move work forward, versus a team that feels like it needs to schedule another meeting every time. I mean, that just
mm.
starts to add up, right? And
Oh yeah,
it's just like what initially is a few days behind the other team is now weeks, is now months, and
yeah,
organizationally that culture is just going to look and feel a whole lot different
yeah,
to be a part of a place where we need a meeting to move decisions forward.
yeah.
So yeah,
Totally. And Joe, maybe what you reminded me here is that the progress principle. I think if
yeah,
you're in that environment where things keep getting stalled out, you're going to feel defeated, and you're kind of just be like, we actually don't make a lot of clear decisions as a team. Things just kind of hang out, and
yeah,
that feels very demotivating, right? So
yeah,
how do we leverage async to
yeah.
just strengthen our ability to make more important decisions and even easier decisions?
Yeah. Well, and what we're not saying here is that like this means now, you know, two individuals on a team are off making decisions in silos, right? And all of a
Yeah.
sudden we have
Oh,
this, fairness or transparency problem, right? That's the beauty of the tools, right?
yes.
Are that we're continuing to invite people into the decision making process. It's just not happening while we're all together. It's happening asynchronously, right?
Yep.
We're doing that work. We're bringing transparency. You have a chance to continue to weigh in. It's just happening in a different way.
Yep.
And then nicely, we actually have a place to like formally document that. Like here was
Yeah.
the decision, right? And so now
Yep.
it brings a bit more rigor to the decision making, right? Where we're not left wondering, did we decide on this? Did we not? Yeah, this is a big
Totally.
one.
Yeah. Awesome, y'all. Well, we hope that these 4 asynchronous hacks help you to level up the way you collaborate as a team. Even if you just try one of them, would encourage you to pick one and try it on. Thanks for listening today. As always, thanks for listening to all of our episodes and leading together. If you found it valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps more leadership teams discover these conversations. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment with your thoughts. We really would love to hear from you. You can also find more resources at sixlevers.co. Until next time, remember to take that one step towards becoming a more cohesive leadership team.